be jumping into game now. Oak, let's get it.
I'm so excited for this. Yeah, I mean, you talked about it. This comp that Sengoku have opted to do, so self-serving and dealing with some of the later 5v5 points, but
yes,
now we're looking towards Dasher. Very mixed bag of opinions on this player, this split, because repeatedly on this Ari, this team has actually they've had some good early games and then opted out. He is a big reason or a big facilitator for how this team can find success against such a counter-engaged comp, just because Charm is such an easy, it's like the solar flare that we see so often used. You can throw it out relatively safe and look for these pickups without being in fear of getting counter-engaged on. As Sengoku are opting in for a little bit of a late ward. They just want to scout out the volley better early pathing. I mean, you have to identify that Blank on this volley, he's trying to get some ganks in early.
And so spotting out where the volley bear is means that it's a lot more easy to counteract him, to play against him. We did actually see something a little bit spicy from Honey in the bot side, actually running the Airy on this side, which to me, Oak, would indicate a more lethality focused build.
Yes. So this champion, a couple of patches ago, she got some buffs. And it really highlighted this new build orientation coming in with the Eclipse, with the Lucidity boost. You opt into a lot of CDR and Q max first. This area would indicate that's the play they're going to be looking towards, and it's very, very lane focused. On top of that, you know that very specifically looking at SoftBank HAWKS' engage options, going to be using that ultimate to defensively play herself. That can really set up for some really high damage feather, like the pull-in of the feathers. And I mean, if you go in the lethality build, that means that, especially if you get into that Sorolda Scrudge second or thirds, a lot of damage going onto Reiner and Blanca. They try and engage onto you.
It's just doubling down into that sort of counter-engage identity that the Xayah does have. Not only are you ulting to provide yourself a little bit of safety, you can do that with the crit build. You are also ulting so that when you pull those feathers back, it is doing a massive amount of damage. Blank was spotted on that ward, placed by Sengoku at the level 1, so they know the volley bear is pathing more towards this top side, and Paz is going to respond with what looks like a ward of his own just by that tri bush to provide himself a bit more safety.
It's a little bit worried about that. I mean, normally these junglers will opt towards this 4 clear, and it seems like we're seeing this here, especially from Once, because Sengoku have opted towards a lot of pushing lanes. Once isn't going to have a lot of access in the early, so wouldn't be surprised to see these junglers just handshake out, take the top and bot scuttle respectively, and look towards second clear as maybe an opportunity to look for ganks.
Funky is Once is going to be taking bot side scuttle, and Blank is going to be responding with the scuttle on the other side of the map. Does scuttles have a name, Oak? I know that Rift Herald does, but have these guys got names?
I don't think scuttle's significant enough, unfortunately. It's not a...
Hold on. Do you have a hamster?
Oh, I do have a hamster.
Does the hamster have a name?
Yeah, my hamster has a name. Okay, have you read... Oh, I can't be talking about it.
Can't be talking about that because Marble is being forced away, burning the flash. Ignite used by NT, but that's a favorable summoner trade for Sengoku.
I think I get to talk about my hamsters now. I'd like to talk about my hamsters.
Can we talk about your hamsters? Yeah. Okay.
Have you read... There's a Swedish folktale book. Like it's a no, but it's not, it's like a children's book, and there's an animated TV series as well called Moomin and Snufkin, or I don't know what it's called, but it has these characters, and one's a little white bear and one's a little guy with a little hat, and they're called Moomin and Snufkin, and that's what they're named after. If anybody has it, there's a little TV show. It's very seen as very aesthetic, like what would you call it, like cottagecore. Do you know what cottagecore is?
No. It's like sort of like that cute, like
and it's like it's like a TV show with like a very cult like favorite part, and there's loads of plushies for them and stuff. And so my hamsters are called Moomin and Snufkin, or they were. Snufkin disappeared. I don't think I've ever heard a story where a hamster dies in a regular way. Either they disappear or they are killed in a horrific accident at some point. My hamster just disappeared.
It just disappeared.
Literally, yes. I don't know where it went.
Just like Shaco Cute or something. Like what?
Yeah, somehow got out of the cage, and I couldn't find.
Might be a little caught here. Blank's gonna flash forward, flash into the crash down for line of the CC chain. Is beautiful, and it's first blood to the lol bear.
That's what we wanted to see from Blank. Get on the volley bear, get on something with early lane presence, and when you combine that with Reiner, they pick up the first kill, and it's also opting into the first Drake as well. Ocean's a bit of a hard opt into solo, so Reiner's going to move up and leash him that as well. Very kind of him.
Wonderfully done. And it's an early advantage for the Hawks, which is what we wanted to sort of see from them. NT forgot to sweep out that ward, and so ends up falling down. But not game-breaking just yet. I feel like Hawks need a couple more picks. They need a couple more kills on these key carries of Dasher and Marble, and then I think we can start talking about this game in a significantly more positive light.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing there is that they're kind of disenabling the Xayah lane just a little bit. And I think you're seeing there, Xayah got an early reset in with the tier. Even with that tier, I would assume that Xayah is going to be trying to push CS lead as much as possible in this lane with repeated Qs, just whittling down the HP bars. So finding a kill like that just gives a little bit of space to find an effective reset for Marble and Reiner, and hopefully not cause too much CS loss.
Hopefully not. Reiner just holding the way for it. I love when a support does this, man. It just feels so good. Like they actually care about me and they actually want me to succeed.
Junglers too. As a mid lane player, if a jungler freezes a fat wave in front of my turret instead of taking it, I'm just like, thank you, kind
just like,
soul.
You just propose to them at that point.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
It's a marriage angle.
Well, unfortunately, I'm a lonesome figure in the League of Legends world.
Oh,
no duo partners to be found.
That's sad, man. That's sad.
I'm sorry. Whilst we see this early game open up a little bit for SoftBank HAWKS, vision has remained relatively neutral. I like that we're seeing pink boards finally come out in the early. Big thing is this pixel brush gets warded out by SoftBanks even, and you're seeing vision generally opted towards his bot side because I'm assuming as soon as Blank is getting that level 6 point, remember 3 camps in his bot side, so should be picking up 6 fairly soon. That's going to be their focus, is looking towards Honey and NT, specifically NT, before they hit level 6 to pick up another kill before the Xayah ultimate gets online, and then suddenly that lane becomes basically undiveable.
I mean, we're talking about level 6 points there. Level 6 just hit for once as well, so the Onslaught of Shadows will be available. Gromp's going to reset there. Not a big fan of Blank there.
Doesn't care. He got 6. Doesn't care.
He got 6. Doesn't care. Just runs bot lane. Can make this a 3v2 if he so chooses. Once instead opting for a little bit of a counter invade. Can clear up these Raptors very, very quickly with the Hecarim.
Yeah, and with that knowledge that Wraiths haven't been taken, as well as that red being off, once and the rest of Sengoku are going to know that Blank is on bot side. And so I'm assuming Honey, now that Honey's got this level 6, suddenly Blank has to walk away. It's no longer an option for him. So they were really just waiting out that level 6 point. Instead, Blank looking towards mid lane as Herald started by Sengoku.
And I think that's one of the things that has been hurting Hawks so far this split, is these little inefficiencies, missing a timing one place, taking a little bit too long in a play in another, and those can really add up over the course of a game, over a course of the split. As it stands, Sengoku with a little bit of a late trade. Hawks were able to pick up that first Drake, but the Herald going in favor of the blue side team.
It's like poetic. As soon as you mention it, they do it again. They just barely missed the reset time and the rotations. You see Reiner just a little bit too late to that party there. And so Herald gets picked up for Sengoku, and they can look to opt into, I mean, Graves has had Paz, I got there eventually, has repeatedly had this shove in top side. They can opt in for first turret there. On top of that, the Xayah going to keep going with this build. You see, finally, that Serrated Dark picked up. This is where the lane gets a little bit tough for Marble and Reiner. Can they look for early plays to potentially set up a first turret?
Yeah, that Serrated Dirk basically turns you into Talon but ranged.
I mean, pretty much. You've got the, instead of rakes, it's feathers. Or what does Talon throw?
It's not rakes.
Blades? It's called rake.
I know it's called rake, but that doesn't mean that it is a rake.
He's not throwing physical. He's not a farmer.
I'm just picturing like Sideshow Bob in The Simpsons just walking around on all the rakes, and that's what playing against Talon is like.
They should do a skin. That's another Halloween skin. I feel like they always get their best ideas from casters.
I want to see. I know that Fortnite does this. They do a lot of those sort of pop culture crossovers, and I'm wary about them because I feel like you can do them well and you can do them badly. But I want Sideshow Bob Talon now. That's happening.
Honestly, I think Fortnite's really nailed that market because they have literally everybody. They have Spider-Man, they have Jinx and Vi. Like they've got everybody. A little bit of early vision coming in from from HAWKS. They're starting towards second Drake. Remember, they picked the first one, so maybe they're identifying that as a bit of a win condition for them. Remember, once the second Drake gets unlocked, we're going to see which soul it is, and that's so important for identifying whether or not you actually want to be playing towards it, whether it's going to be that Infernal and Hex taking, like, oh boy, this is really big, we can play off this is a win condition for us, or if it's Cloud, and you go, well, this helps us, but it's not really anything to scoff at. Okay,
so we have Herald Summon in the bot lane, so this will donate a couple of plates over towards Honey, get them more accelerated towards that Eclipse.
The bigger thing is it forces, look at this, the clumping, they have to be forced off the Drake, and they find the fight is huge!
That is a massive wombo combo. Marble is already dead, and Blank is going to be the next one to fall down. Honey forced to flash away from the tower, but 2 kills for Sengoku, and the turret plates, and the Drake. This is a massive play for them.
I thought Sengoku were going to play it slow. They were forcing HAWKS off of this Drake so they could get the vision back on it and take it for themselves after they've rotated to stop this first turret in the bot side. But no, they spot the opportunity. NT flashes over, picks up that. Fantastic. Yeah, they're going to secure this second Drake here, which means 1 for 1 for this team. And they also got 4 plates in the bot side, all going directly to Honey. And that has linked in very nicely because he has managed to pick himself up an Eclipse. And yeah, you get to see it here. Really good macro choices coming up from Sengoku to start with, and then just really on the ball with it. This single point of vision is all they have on it, and then bam, flash forward with the onslaught of shadows. Honey's there to follow out the damage, and they all just unionize. Brilliant.
Yeah, that was honestly beautiful, and it's kind of characterized Sengoku as just one of these teams that has been very, 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 very good. They make plays like this, they're all on the same page together, and it really pans out for them. Once again, though, have to caveat, is only a 1.4 thousand gold lead, and that's going to be reduced as Marble is able to wail on this tower for a little bit. Liner thinking about going around the other side, but yeah, 2 plates funneled over, and that gold lead, yeah, basically dead even at this point into the game. One of these teams is going to have to make a couple more plays if they really want to secure a meaningful advantage.
Yeah, bigger thing to be looking at right now is mythics on the board. We see 3 for Sengoku, and this is really their tempo play right now. Because they have these mythics on board, they need to be trying to use these as quickly as possible to extend that rather small gold lead into something more substantial. So we're going to be keeping eyes on NT and Once to see how they can use their team's damage to facilitate more fights, look towards potentially first turret in the bot side.
That has been where all the action has been so far this game. Top lane has been a bit of an island this game. And for good reason. Paz, Kinatu kind of just been trading up against each other. It is actually the Immortal Shieldbow Graves, which is something that I know that we weren't really anticipating to come out. What do you think the logic is there, man?
Well, I mean, you're looking at not only do HAWKS want to just play forwards, which means that you want to be as tanky as possible. And I think specifically towards the Shieldbow, it's the Negan build that people have been or used to call it. I don't think people call that as NT's hex flashing forwards.
Yeah, and Once is going to be here as well. Once again, we are seeing repeat plays being made in the bot lane. Blank going forward with the Stormbringer, and Kinatsu TPing in to find nothing. Sengoku pulled the trigger once more, and we weren't talking about top lane, but it's becoming impactful now because Paz is going to pick up so many plates here.
Yeah, still has to. I mean, his plates are gone. But no, that's better for them because it means instead of these plates, the turret is now unguarded. He can go straight towards looking towards his first turret. Doesn't opt into that because he wants to reset time, and I think we get to see a little bit of how Sengoku are going to be playing these fights. NT is very on edge to try and find these picks because they have those mythic tempos, and he does it here. They look for NT, and then Reiner tries to do the Magnustorm. We're seeing the prophecy of this comp as Honey immediately ultis it, and as soon as HAWKS maybe try and find the continuation of the fight, that pullback comes in and snares down 2 members of HAWKS, and they really don't have any response.
Tell you what, teams have been playing around bot lane pretty well so far today.
Enjoying it.
Nicely executed. It's nice to have cleanly executed League of Legends because sometimes the LJL can get a little bit fiestery, but a
bit spicy.
Little bit spicy. It's been good so far. I've been enjoying it. We are seeing items completed now on the side of HAWKS, sort of catching up in terms of those mythic marks. We've got that Turbo Chem Tank for Blanca, the Hull Breaker for Kinatsu, which has been pretty much the go-to on Nar as your rush.
At default, so much lane prio with it. You get the concrete tower push if you're left by yourself, which I think is Kanato's goal for this game, really only TPing in when he has that mega, when he has the opportunity to use that ultimate. So yeah, and quickly talking on Paz, as we maybe see a dive in the top side. Once is trying to find it, but I think just getting space with that Herald to maybe pick up the second turret gold specifically onto Honey to really funnel the gold into him. Would be surprised if we see Paz opt into a BT second instead of the Hull Breaker, looking towards as much lifesteal as possible, because you look at HAWKS, if they aren't able to find that clean engage and pick off Paz before he's able to respond, well, he's going to lifesteal all that back repeatedly and function as pseudo frontline for this comp to find extended fights if Honey isn't able to find the damage right at the start on the key members like Dasher or Marble.
And it will have to be a pseudo frontline, because Sengoku, they don't really have a pure tank on their lineup. It is the Glacial Nautilus, and whilst once is going towards that chem tank, and I imagine that Deadman's plate with his next item, it is the phase rush. Hecarim isn't a particular tanky champion just in terms of the way that his kit works, so I think Sengoku, they've been good so far, but they're going to have to continue playing around spacing very, very carefully if they're not if they want to avoid getting just blown up by the HAWKS.
Big thing now, as top lane tier 1 gets unlocked, we're going to see Sengoku hopefully move away from that lane as much as possible and try and establish some vision around this Drake. They got the second Drake. We see that Infernal Soul is picked up, and that's a big win condition for both teams, because we talk about it all the time, but both these teams are looking for that first engage. Infernal really helps with finding those picks onto maybe more of the tankier members of each team, and Sengoku are really on the ball to immediately get this wave shove in mid. They know that top side's free and they have Paz on TP, so second Drake for them now and first Infernal of the game.
I like it. I like it. A bit more of a damage focus, Soul, and it means that the explosive team fights that we envision that we will be getting with all the engagements that we've already talked about are going to be that much more explosive. And so I'm anticipating that the next Drake coming up in 5 minutes time, and probably every subsequent Drake, is going to be hotly contested by both of these teams because of how impactful they can be.
Honestly surprised we didn't see more of it from HAWKS for that Drake itself, because they had Kanatu in the bot side. Instead, as their aggressive Kanatu just left Mini, and having to use the Onslaught Shadows to disengage because they didn't have the appropriate vision to go for that aggression. That gives a little bit of a tempo upswing for HAWKS to maybe look for a player themselves, and they're hovering in Pixel, but this pink is really smart from Sengoku. They know they haven't poked that, so they're just sitting in that bush. They are aware of it, and they get spotted out and poked out there.
I feel like Honey didn't need to do that. I think that you can bait that a little bit longer, just sort of draw out their suffering in that pixel box, waiting for someone to walk by and for someone to get picked off, but ultimately just didn't end up happening in the end. Something I do want to highlight is that Honey is very, very close to actually completing the Manamune, and look at the stacks on his tier, already at 354. This is going to be the Manamune pretty much directly into that Muro Mana transformation. So after this base, this Sire is going to be lethal.
And the build only keeps getting better after that point. Once Muraman is unlocked, obviously a lot of additional damage onto squishy members, and hopefully Honey will be pairing that up with a Sororitas Grudge first for the maximum amount of penetration you can get at this point in the game. I mean, a lot of people talk about Collector versus Lord Doms and Grudge, but these percentage pen items normally slot in better as a second item or a third item if you only have one pen item before that, just because at this point in the game, people are going to be sitting over that 40 armor point, and really that's where that effective pen comes into factor.
It is quite strange how quickly sort of like that percentage pen does become sort of quite useful. That's the interesting conversation, because Collector gives 20 more AD than Lord Doms, and that's really where people start talking about, okay, well, how much more effective damage than that is. But I think there was a recent thing with Void Staff second from in NA, because Freak was saying how it was bad, and one of the EG analysts pulled out a chart and did the damage for all the different potential second items that Syndra can get in a against the comp that they were facing, and Void Staff was better than the majority of them. And with itemization, you can end up with over-indexing on numbers sometimes,
Yes.
and oftentimes just like the comfort and the feel of the item, and the small things like extra HP here and there can actually mean a lot more than people give it credit for. So I always do like those item discussions. You end up in very, very interesting conversations. You get to understand what people prioritize, and what Sengoku are currently prioritizing is this mid lane. 4 members posted up in there. They want to get down this tower as soon as possible so they can push their vision lines even further. Once is maybe thinking about a dive here, but it could be risky.
Nutty's on the side. They're dancing for it ever slowly. Reiner could look for the engage here, but the tier 1's picked up. Sengoku have no reason to stay anymore. They get to walk up for free, and that's all 3 tier 1s picked up for Sengoku. They're very happy with that, and that's going to be right on timer for them to get their resets in, rotate this vision. They pushed around the mid lane, now back towards this dragon. As once we've hit 20 minutes, the real big thing to be looking towards is this this 4th Drake even getting picked up, spawning in a couple of minutes time.
1 minute. I suppose that's
1 minute?
Couple. I suppose that's 1.
Is it 1?
Yeah,
Is it 1 minute?
It says the Drake is spawning in a minute.
1 now. Okay,
are you okay? What?
No, I lost it a little bit. I couldn't find the dragon timer on the screen. I was like, where are you finding this information? You prophets.
Do you know what? That's fair enough. That's reasonable. Just
I
very,
thought you've
very
been
smart.
counting down the entire time. Like 4:55, 4:54.
You're just like there in all chat, just spamming the timers, like. But as it stands, despite that mid lane tower going down in favor of Sengoku, they're the ones who are actually being left out of the river at the moment. 30 seconds until that Drake spawns, so maybe the Hawks are a little bit early, but if they can find an engage in this mid, then sure they won't be thinking that they are too early at all. I love when we get these scenarios, both teams just sort of looking at each other, waiting for that overstep, waiting for that single mistake that could be punished.
Really important to try and get Kanatu's mega early, and they just don't get it in time. So Kanatu's going to be really eager to find that right transformation. As Sengoku, they're slowly walking in. They had that mid lane tier 1, so they get the wave push, and it forces SoftBank back a little bit. But seeing the dance start, and I don't know what's going to happen.
Well, I think Reiner's going to be looking for a big engage. I think the Once is going to be looking for a big engage. The word is engage. How many people can you catch? How important are they? Yeah, locking up a tank is going to feel pretty good until the AD carry in the mid lane on the backside deals so much damage to you. They're going for it though as Reiner dives into the backline. Jet misses the ultimate, so can't get into the fight soon enough. The Drake has been taken by Blank, but the fight is all Sengoku. Marble is trying to cut himself away. Red and White means don't fight, and he is doing a damn good job standing tall, but will eventually fall. Drake for the Hawks, but the fight all Sengoku.
3 for 1 in total, and I think it was so close for SoftBank Hawks there as they find that initial gauge onto Honey, but they can't pair it with any follow-up. Honey gets the ultimate just up in time, and the big thing to look out for is look at the Honey flash. So well handled, and the rest of Sengoku get free to find some really big damage here. Jet always sitting on the sidelines. As they find this initial engage, Jet is trying to find it themselves, and even though this ultimate flubs, a lot of potential damage comes out. So Honey finally here uses the flash over the wall as Paz you don't fight Graves in Dragon, and you can see why there a huge amount of burst comes out, and Marble desperately trying to find that response, but it wasn't really enough.
Not able to make it work in the end, and this is why Honey's so good, man. Like, he can just play on the limit. He can deal as much damage as possible. Look at that, 3,600. Thank you very much, Graphics team, for pulling up that one. And Paz as well, standing tall, doing a fair bit of damage himself.
Yep. And that was all through that AoE that you found in Dragon Pit. That Q combined with the ulti, even with this build, nothing to scoff at, and a lot of burst came out from that champion.
He's rushed prop by once, but Reiner able to get the knockup, maybe baiting in the Hecarim here as Blank is going to immediately engage onto Jet on the other side, but the fears come through and Hawks have overextended. Dasher is going to be the first kill of the fight as Blank is looking to index down, looking to trade one back and continue through the rest of it. Actually uses that Storm Surge and is somehow still staying alive. He will eventually fall down now as Kanatu is the only member of the Hawks left in this fight. Marble and Reiner have abandoned him for the mid lane, and the Gnar will be going down. Another 3 for 1 for Sengoku.
Once leaves and just a smidgen of HP. Yeah, they find the 3 kills, which is fairly good, but unfortunately for them, this is going to slow down that Baron just a little bit. Now we see Jet off the board and Once having to reset, so they're going to pick up this top lane tier 1 as NT is trying to find people. Looks like they opting for the reset though, and he doesn't find the reset, doesn't stop the reset in time, so only this top lane tier 2 can get picked up, and does slow down this Baron somewhat, so it kind of net neutral for both teams.
Not the worst thing in the world. I will just say, though, as we come into this replay, that this felt like a little bit of a fight over nothing for Sengoku. Hawks trying to bait as well as they can, but not able to get it initially onto the Vex, and then it just gets turned around on them.
Yep, they just didn't have enough damage to pick off Jet in time, and even though Plank does a fantastic job of living for a very, very long amount of time, it doesn't really amount to anything because the team's just not in position. It feels like a very weird aggression from Hawks, but as you mentioned, also from Sengoku, they over eager to find that fight there when really they should be pressuring with this Baron. They continue to do so now. They still got Baron and 4 members. They pick up the second tier 2 and unlock a little bit more of this standard gold. And you were seeing now finally they're taking a lot of control over this vision, really trying to restrict as much as possible as they're hopefully looking towards this bot lane tier 2 as well before the Baron falls.
Yeah, there's a CB LOL caster, goes by the name of Rudy, does a lot of stuff actually, very, very cool guy. Likes to call this first Baron the economy Baron. This is one for clearing up the structures on the map. This is the one to get you those influxes of gold. Then it comes to the second Baron, is the one where you need to be taking down these inhib towers, these inhibs, and trying to pressure and end the game. Sengoku have built up a fairly generous gold lead for themselves, 7,000 in their pockets, with Drake spawning in a minute's time. Sole point for both of these teams. The Hawks, they don't want to let them spend that gold, they don't want to let them reset, and that's why Blank is running forward with the chem tank. Will be forced away with a couple of shots to the back of his head, but this has prompted Sengoku to actually stay around a little bit longer, and maybe Dasher and Co can capitalize on this. Although I say that, the double fears coming out. Ryder once again diving into the backline with the Magnet Storm, but he isn't able to find the engage that he really wants, and will be the first casualty of the fight. Kinatsu will fall as well. Here comes once as he's diving forward with the onslaught of shadows, and Hawks, they played with fire. They were like Icarus. They flew too close to the sun, and Sengoku, they clean up the fight with Blank the only one left alive.
Absolutely. On the knife's edge, Blank, the main real front line for this comp, gets taken apart in terms of the HP. And then Sengoku, they understand, they realize they can play the same role that Hawks were just trying to play. They try and find the HP, and even better, they get 4 kills. They're going to pick up Blank as well. That's the inhib. Earliest reset times of Ryder. Can they even look for the win here?
Maybe. Blank was just looking to thin the minion wave, just trying to take that down so the buff doesn't get taken off the towers, but it's not going to be enough. The death timers are just too long. And Hawks, they had a couple of good moments, but Sengoku showed their class and take themselves to 8 wins.
And we came into this